you, Aitra, and thank you, Vasudha, so much for reaching out. This has actually been long awaited from my end also to introduce polymer clay as a medium to so many. I'm sure many of you who've joined today have already tried your hands with the medium. Maybe that's why you're here. And even if you've not, it's very encouraging to see more people interested in the medium. The thing is, why we are doing it just for polymer clay is that it's a very different medium from any other clay medium that's available out there. You have so many mediums like, oil-based, plasticine, water-based, air dry, Play-Doh. So many people keep coming back to me and asking me, can we dry the polymer clay, air dry the polymer clay? Can we boil the polymer clay? Will it dry out if we leave it open for too long? These are the questions that come to me, which is why I wanted to tell you that polymer clay does not dry out. It has to be baked. There is no other way you can cure polymer clay. So all these clays that you're seeing are not polymer clay. If you see any clay brand out there that says it's a plasticine or it's air dry or it's Play-Doh, ceramic, paper clay, metal clay, cold porcelain, wax clay, there's so many other varieties as well for sculpting and other requirements, but those are not polymer clay. This is not polymer clay. What is polymer clay then? Polymer clay is plastic. In simple terms, it's PVC. It's the same material that your shower curtains are made of. It's the same material that is used for PVC pipes. It's basically plastic. So how come it's in a clay form? What makes it in a clay form? It's got certain ingredients in it which make it very malleable and very clay-like. It's plastic resin, plasticizers, gelling agents, fillers, colors. There are a lot of things, mica powders, if it's a metallic clay, a lot of things that go into making polymer clay the way it is. So what happens with polymer clay is that there are different varieties of polymer clay, so the ingredients will keep changing, but it's very important to understand what these ingredients are so that you know how to treat it right. The most possible issue that happens with people is it doesn't bake right, it breaks too often, it is too brittle. These are the reasons why you probably not cured it correctly, and if you know how polymer clay is made, you will probably not make those mistakes. So which is why I want to make it very clear, polymer clay is a very durable product once it's cured. It's as durable as a PVC pipe or a shower curtain, so it will last as long as those products also last. And it's one of the most versatile mediums out there. So let's go on to knowing what does it really require to get started with polymer clay. You don't need much. You just need polymer clay, of course. Many people say, can we make polymer clay at home? It's not really possible. You can't make polymer clay at home. Polymer clay needs to be manufactured at an industrial level. It's very good if you have a factory set up at home to produce polymer clay, but the kind of ingredients that go into making it, it's not quite possible to make it at home. Air dry clay, maybe yes. Air dry clay, you can make at home. You can make a lot of other paper clays at home, but you can't make polymer clay at home. It has to be purchased. So that's one very important thing if you want to start working with the medium. The second most important thing that you need is an oven. You cannot work with polymer clay if you don't have an oven. The basic requirements for polymer clay is to bake it. And if you have to bake it, you have to bake it at the correct temperature and for a correct amount of time. If these two things don't happen, it cannot be cured. So an oven is a must. You can't cure polymer clay in a microwave. Many people might have even tried doing that. Please don't. It can be hazardous. It can release toxic fumes if you try it, because what it does is a microwave cooks in a very different way as compared to an oven. What microwave does it cooks the top layer first and then the internal layer of anything that you put inside it. So what happens is the insides of the product that you put inside will start bubbling and the outside will get cured faster. So what happens is in the process, it starts bubbling and starts burning. So microwaves will just not work for polymer clay. You will have to have a regular convection oven at home in which you bake cakes or biscuits or cookies or whatever. You can use the same oven that you use for cooking food, because I do that as well. You can use the same oven to cook your polymer clay products as well. It is not toxic. Polymer clay is usually food grade plastic. It will not, you, all you need to do is after you bake your polymer clay, just leave the door open for a while it's cooling down, so that whatever fumes, if any, get released immediately, and it will not affect your cooking with other edible products. So you need an oven for sure, and you cannot boil polymer clay. The reason for that is polymer clay bakes at a certain temperature. It requires a minimum of 125 to 130 degrees. Sometimes it also goes a little higher than that, depending on the brand that you're using. So 100 degrees centigrade is the boiling point of water. If you boil polymer clay in water, it will not cure. It will not be adequate amount of temperature required to cure polymer clay. So you have to do it in an oven. No other way around it. So these are the two basic things that you need to play with polymer clay, to be honest. And the third most important thing is ideas. And trust me, once you start working with polymer clay, those are not going to stop. I sleep at night thinking about ideas of what am I going to do next with my polymer clay project. So trust me, ideas are not going to stop once you start digging your hands into it. So yeah, these are the three basic things you need for polymer clay. And coming to how do you work with polymer clay, I have actually divided it into four basic phases of working with polymer clay. The first, very important, is prepping your clay. Like any other medium, even this medium requires a little prep. Your clay can be very fresh. So Oitra has released the latest range of clays that Oitra has come up with is already pre-conditioned. Conditioning is a very important part of working with polymer clay. What happens is it has plasticizers, it has gelling agents, it has colors. All that tends to settle after a little while. What happens is if you keep these clays, they will not dry out for sure. You can keep using it for years. I know people who have kept their clay for years and then they start using it. They have to work a little on the conditioning part, but you can definitely use it. So you can keep your clay for months, and trust me, you'll run out of it sooner than later, but you will not have to keep it for that long. But polymer clay does not dry out. What you need to do is you need to condition the clay. Conditioning means you are activating all the agents inside the clay, and mixing it up all together, because otherwise they settle. When you keep something for too long, it starts settling. So which is why you need to condition it. So how do you condition the clay? Conditioning the clay can be done with acrylic rollers. It can be done with a pasta machine. Many people choose a pasta machine because it's faster, it's less cumbersome. But if you're starting with polymer clay, you honestly don't even need a pasta machine. You can just do it with a acrylic roller. I don't know if you can see my face, but this is an acrylic roller that you need to use to just condition clay. It's like जैसे रोटी बेलते हैं वैसे ही ये acrylic roller you need to use. And for conditioning, all you need to do is just I already have conditioned clay. So what happens is this is one clay that I have kept for very long. It has been months since it has been lying. I usually store my clay in a folder. You know, I you can use these tips when you get deeper into the thing. I keep them all in a folder like this in clay, in folders, and it's easier to just browse through the colors that I have already opened and I have kept. So so this is one slice that has been lying for a while. It has been there for like months. I don't know. It's been 6 months since I've conditioned this. So clearly the clay particles have settled in it. Now I'll show you what's the difference between conditioned clay and non-conditioned clay. If I break it, can you see it? It will break. See, it cracks. This is not supposed to happen with conditioned clay. This is unconditioned clay. This is broken. So what you need to do is, a conditioned clay will be like this. It's soft. It's completely soft. It will not break. That is the difference between conditioning. So This clearly needs conditioning. How do you condition it? You just knead it with your hand. जैसे आटा गूंथते हैं वैसे you just knead it with your hand and then you roll it out on your surface with a clay roller. Now, when you condition it, ensure that no air bubbles get trapped in it. I will I will touch that topic again later on, but that is the main aspect of conditioning clay. When you condition clay, when you are making it soft, ensure that no air bubbles are getting trapped in between. Make sure all the surfaces are getting pressed out. Air bubbles are getting pressed out when you do that, because when you bake it, the air bubbles will try to come out. And what will happen is your surface will have bubbles on it. And that's not a very pretty sight. So that's one thing you need to make sure of. Another thing that you need for prepping clay, of course, is a cutting blade. I use a regular cutting blade. This is the blade that I use, a regular blade for cutting my clay. It gives me very clean cut. So I just use a very simple blade. You also might need to leach your clay. Now, what is leaching? I'll touch all these things later on in detail, but you need to leach your clay. You need to condition your clay. If the clay is too soft, you need to leach it. If the clay is not very soft and it's breaking like how I showed you, you need to condition it. So these are the two things you need to do. Next comes the fun part, which is playing with clay. Your clay is ready and you need to play with it, of course. So what all do you need to play with clay? Trust me, you will find things in your house lying around that you can use for playing with clay. You can create textures out of things. Like, for example, I could use the top of the thing to create textures on my clay. You know, you can use anything that's lying around your house to create textures. You can use a foil ball. You can use a comb. You can use so many things to create textures. You can use modeling tools. Now, Oitra has actually come up with Oitra also in its beginner set. So it has a beginner set with 24 colors, and it's like almost like a candy box here. It's got so many colors. It's got like 24 colors in this. So this also comes with very cute set of clay tools in it. It has plastic tools in it, which is also safe for kids. Otherwise, for grown-ups, I also use like some clay shaping tools, which also I think Oitra also has it on its website. You can just go check it out. Tools like these are what I use to play with clay, making textures or creating or sculpting things. So I have used Oitra's tools to actually create one small sponge. This is not baked, by the way. This was SpongeBob SquarePants that I made using just plastic tools, nothing big. So this is very easy actually. These tools make it very easy to do these things. What else can you use? Like I said, polymer clay is a very sticky medium. You need things that will not stick to the clay that often. So things that are not porous, like wooden tools might not work as well with polymer clay because it will stick to it. You need things like glass, acrylic, you need paper, things that will not stick to it, silicone. So I also have these silicone brushes that I use to sometimes create textures and effects on clay. So these sort of make it easier. They don't stick to clay. It makes it easier for that. That there's no end to what all you can use. And there is another thing that Oitra has come up with just for polymer clay users. It's called a depth guide. It's nothing. It's just these simple slabs of 2 mm and no, sorry, 3 mm and 1 mm. I'm correct, Vasudha, I think. So it's two depth guides. Yeah,
Yes.
it's
It's a
3 mm and 1 mm.
2 mm and 3 mm scales.
Yeah, 2 mm and 3 mm. Yeah, exactly. So what this helps in doing is you can, I'll show how to use this later on also when I go through the demo. You just place this on the surface, put the clay in between and roll. So what it does is it gives you the clay thickness of the depth guide. The depth guide tells you what the thickness of your clay sheet will be when you're rolling out the clay. How that helps is it helps you create even products, you know, like especially when you're making earrings and all and you're making cutouts. All the cutouts will be of an even thickness, which is very important because it gives a good finish. One, two, if it's too thin or too thick, it might not have the flexibility that usually clay should have. I'll show you about the flexibility as well, about clay, how polymer clay is so flexible even after getting cured. Then comes the third phase, which is curing the finished piece. You need basically three things. What does curing mean? Curing is nothing but baking it at the correct temperature. It has to be, I'm talking about Oitra right now on this session. Oitra requires 130 degrees centigrade. I keep it somewhere between 125 to 130 just to be safe. And I increase the duration of baking. So I usually keep my stuff baking for like a good 45 to 50 minutes in a preheated oven. You can also keep it in the oven directly as the temperature rises. But when you bake, you need to put it on a surface. I would suggest either use glass or a tile, a ceramic tile. Some people even use metal sheets, or even a plate can do. A metal plate, stainless steel plate can work for a good surface to bake your clay on. But when you bake, there can be shiny spots. Now I'll show you what a shiny spot looks like. Just a sec. I don't know if you can see. The back of this clay is shining, right? It's a very ugly looking piece of clay. That's because I intentionally baked it the way it has been baked. I baked it directly on a surface. What happened is the clay stuck to a non-porous, wherever the clay has stuck to a non-porous surface, it has become shiny. So what you need to do is just put a simple plain piece of paper and put your pieces on top of that. What it will give you is a very smooth backing. Something like this. See, it's come out extremely smooth. No shiny spots. That's a trick. You just need to put a plain piece of paper on top of your underneath your clay and just bake it, and it will give you a very smooth surface, and you will not have to waste time sanding and buffing, and it'll be just ready to use as soon as it's out of the oven. Another thing that I use, it's a staple in my baking equipment, is these. You get it very easily in the market. Maybe just wash one when you order from outside and keep it for yourself. What you need to do is you need to tent it. Tenting your polymer clay produce, like when you, just a second. When I put my clay to bake in the oven on top of a piece of paper, for example, if I put a piece of paper, I put my clay on top, that is not enough, because you need to regulate the temperature around the thing that you're baking. What I do is I cover it with a tin foil. Tenting it regulates the temperature inside and it will evenly cook the piece of polymer clay. So that ensures that the piece that you have put inside is properly getting cured in all places, and it will not get burnt either. So if you are facing problems that your polymer clay things are getting burnt too much or becoming brown or discoloring, you can just prevent it by just tenting it with a tin foil. Another thing that you can do is, I just want to, I plan a lot and I want to be very sure of what I bake and it doesn't get spoiled. I use an oven thermometer. You just need to put this in the oven. Now, why I use an oven thermometer is because, especially if your ovens are too, if your oven is too old, sometimes, and if it's a manual knob, what happens with that is the temperature tends to shoot in between. What that might do is it might burn your polymer clay creations that you put inside. So just to keep a check on the temperature, I prefer keeping an oven thermometer inside, because most of the manual knob ovens out there might show you a 130 in the knob, but it might not be 130, it might be more than that, and you might not even realize it. So it's always safe to have an oven thermometer. These are not very expensive. I got this for like some 300 bucks from Amazon, so you can buy one. It's always helpful to have one. You can use it while you're cooking stuff also, so it's a good investment. um, the last part is finishing your product. How do you finish your product? Honestly, I like the matte look that polymer clay gives after it's baked. I'm a hardcore matte finish person, so I don't like giving it varnishes or glazes too much until and unless it's a requirement. But you can also, sand it. Sometimes just sanding and buffing gives it a good shine. You don't need to use a varnish on your products. So just sand it properly. How I sand it, I have different levels of sanding paper that you again can get online very easily. I start from a 400 grit sandpaper, move on to 600, 800, and then go on to 2000 and above. What that gives is a very even sanding finish, and it gives a shine that you are looking for. And then you can just buff it over a old piece of cloth or jeans or whatever, and it'll give you a shine like you would get from a glaze that you apply. Otherwise, uh, when you use glazes or varnishes, just ensure that you're using water-based varnishes, because other varnishes will react with your polymer clay. Polymer clay reacts with things that are not water-based in varnishes, and what will happen is your polymer clay will become sticky over time. Maybe within a few hours, it will start becoming sticky. So try not to use any other, especially I've seen people using clear nail polishes over their creation. So please don't do that. It will react with your polymer clay and it'll become sticky over time. So use a water-based varnish, or Sculpey comes up with a lot of glazes that is meant for just polymer clay. You can just use that. Next, we can go on to the four important techniques that I was talking about, how to condition clay. Now, I use a pasta machine. Like I said, this is a pasta machine. I use a pasta machine to reduce my work because I'm creating on a larger I'm creating on a larger scale. So if I'm creating larger number of products, I need to ensure that I don't end up hurting myself, which is why I use a pasta machine. But I don't think if you're starting out, you need a pasta machine. For conditioning, you can just do it by hand. You can just use a clay roller and condition your clay. You don't need to invest in a pasta machine. Use a clay roller, use your hand. When you are folding your clay, ensure that there are no air pockets in between. Always ensure there are no air pockets in between, and then you are rolling on top of the clay, because otherwise the air pockets will create problems when you bake your products. And it really hurts when you have put in so much effort, you put it in for baking, and suddenly it's coming out with bubbles on it. It doesn't look pretty. So just ensure there are no air pockets in between. Leaching. Now, leaching is a technique. Many people seem to complain that the clay is very soft. You can't really work with it. It's too soft. And they're like, we're not able to create things like the way you are doing it. Why is this happening? How do you manage to work with soft clay? The way out of very soft clay is leaching. Now, it's not the fault of the clay. Let me just tell you that it's not the fault of the clay that the clay is soft or too hard. It's basically sometimes certain color additives that are added to the clays, or certain fillers that are added to the clays make it a certain way. So certain colors in the same batch might be very soft, and some other colors in the same brand might be very soft. So there is a way of handling that as well. You do leaching. Leaching is nothing but placing a sheet of clay in the middle of two plain pieces of paper. Ensure that there's nothing printed on these papers, because what will happen is the print will get imprinted on your clay, and you don't want to dirty your clay with printed ink. The inks will transfer onto your clay. So try not to leach in printed paper. Plain your printer paper that you have, just put the sheet of clay in between two pieces of paper. You can see, I don't know if it's showing in the light, it has left a grease mark on the paper. So what's happened is it's leached out the excess plasticizer out of the clay. It's leached out the excess oils. So what makes it makes it more stronger, and not stronger, it makes it more harder to work with and easier to work with. So leaching time can vary from clay to clay. If the clay is very soft, you can leave it overnight. I usually leach my clay. If it's very soft, I can leave it overnight for like 8 hours, 7 hours. Sometimes I've even leached clay for like 10 hours. Or you can just leave it for some 3 to 5 hours, and I think that much leaching should be good enough. I don't think Oitra requires too much of leaching, but if you leave it just for 3 to 5 hours, it's good enough, and then it's ready to use. But remember, after you leach, you need to condition the clay again, because now that you've left the clay for so long and the plasticizers have been leached out, it needs to be reactivated again. So you need to condition the clay again. Condition the clay and then you start using it. So that is leaching. Third is baking. Baking, again, I have talked about. It's the oven thermometer. Your surface can be a ceramic tile, a glass slab, or even a stainless steel plate for that matter. You can use these surfaces to bake on. And of course, tent your creations if possible, because that will ensure that you don't end up baking your pieces. Sanding and buffing, again, I have already touched those, so I'm not going to waste time on that and move on. Uh, these are, I think, many of you might have faced at least one or two issues when you started working with polymer clay. You get bubbles, you get plaquing. Now, plaquing, I'll tell you what happens in plaquing. Plaquing is, I don't know if in the light it shows, but there are like patches, white patches in clay. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see white patches? So what happens is in clay, you start getting white patches in between after baking it. That's called plaquing. Usually it's seen in translucent clay. That's because of the certain way. So I'll touch each of these issues and I'll tell you why these issues happen. Bubbles happen, like I said, when air gets trapped in between clay. You need to release the bubbles. So I will show you during the demo how I release bubbles. It's something very simple. It's not rocket science. You can easily remove bubbles. You just have to be very careful when you're conditioning your clay and rolling it out. So the only reason bubbles happens is when air tries to escape from inside the clay, because it's hot, of course. Plaquing again happens because it usually happens in translucent clay. It's more visible in translucent clay. It does happen in regular colors also, but it's more jarring in translucent because you can see through. This happens because it's not been adequately conditioned. You need to condition your clay properly. Like I said, different elements are not evenly distributed in the clay, which is why plaquing happens. So once you condition your clay, all the elements and materials in the clay are activated and equally homogeneously mixed together. That's when plaquing will not happen. And you need to ensure that the thickness is even and there's no air bubbles in between. So plaquing will not happen if you take care of that. Third, third issue that happens is your clay is brittle. It's falling apart. It's breaking after baking it. You baked it for like the correct temperature. You baked it for the correct amount of time, and yet your clay is just falling apart. Why this happens is there can be many reasons for brittle or crumbly clay. Again, it depends on conditioning. If you have not conditioned your clay properly, if the plasticizers and the elements in the clay have not been evenly distributed, that's when the clay is not able to hold itself together, which is why it becomes crumbly after baking. Another reason why it's crumbly and breaking is because you've not baked it for enough amount of time. If your clay is underbaked, now I have a sample of an underbaked clay here. I'll just show you. I intentionally underbaked this clay, and I have kept it just to show you how it breaks. So, oh wow, Vasudha, your clay is too good, yeah. I'm trying to break it, it's not breaking. But you can see, I mean, it's leaving like this mark in between. I try to underbake it. I baked it for just 20 minutes and it's still baked. I don't know why. But yeah. So basically, it just breaks. Damn, Oitra doesn't break. Okay. But that's good. Okay, so this is supposed to break and crumble because it was not baked for enough time. Clearly, Oitra works even for 20 minutes. But it will definitely leave these marks in between. If you can see the white patch that has happened for putting too much pressure, this was because it was not properly baked. That is another reason why your clay will be crumbly. Fourth issue that people face is burning. Your clay is burning. Many people might have tried it in their microwave ovens. I've already touched upon that microwave ovens are not meant for polymer clay. Your clay will definitely burn in a microwave oven, so do not do that. Do not put it in a microwave oven. Second reason why it burns is because of uneven heating within the microwave oven. If you're going for a toaster oven, which are smaller in size, the heat in that gets too much. So even if your knob is showing you 130, the heat inside might be much higher than what it's showing, because it's a smaller environment. So which is why I would suggest reduce the temperature a little than, if it's a toaster oven, a smaller oven, reduce the temperature a little lower than what has been prescribed, and make it for longer. That might help you in avoiding burning your clay. Also, a tin foil definitely helps in avoiding burning your clay. You can, of course, use an oven thermometer for baking your clay. So these are the three basic things that might help you avoid burning your clay. And many people say that if you keep the clay for too long in the oven, it might burn. That is not true. You can keep your creations inside the oven for longer than recommended. What it does is it cures it properly. I usually take all my pieces regardless of their size, especially the smaller pieces. Also, I bake them easily for 50 to 60 minutes, if just to ensure that it's properly cured. So you can keep it baking for as long as your temperature is correct. So temperature has to be correct, and you can bake it for longer. That way, your products will not burn and they will be properly cured. Second last point is shiny spots. I showed you shiny spots in this, right? And I told you how to get rid of those also. Do not place it directly on your glass or your ceramic tile. Always keep it on top of a piece of paper. When you put it on a piece of paper, it will not show you the spots and you will not have to sand it and waste your time on that. Last is cracks. Yes, mostly these things happen. Cracks usually happen when you're sculpting or making more bigger pieces, larger pieces. When that happens is, again, it happens because you've not either conditioned your clay properly. That is one of the major reasons why that happens. You need to condition it, and the cracks will not happen. Second is the temperature. If the temperature is too high, again, the clay is it will possibly crack. So try to ensure that the temperature of your oven is correct, and your clay will not crack because of that. Sometimes cracks also happen if water gets, so there can be techniques where you have used water to release something, or in some of the techniques where you might be using water, ensure that the water is completely dried. If you're using acrylic paints in your creations, ensure that the acrylic paint is completely dried and then you start working it, so that you don't contain moisture in between the clay. When that happens, water will of course try to escape when you bake it, and when it tries to escape, it will either bubble or it will crack. So that can be another reason why it cracks. Um, Coming to the next, what are the different techniques to play with? Oh, this is an endless topic, and I just put down a few that are most common, but trust me, there is no end to techniques when it comes to polymer clay. You can go crazy with materials, you can go crazy with textures, you can go crazy with all sort of techniques in this, and there'll be no end to it. But to start with, I'll talk about slabs. Slabs is nothing, just creating like a layer of clay and on that you start putting elements. I might just do one workshop later on creating a nice cute slab and making creations out of it. Veneers, I have an example of a veneer lying here with me. I'll show you what a veneer looks like. Where did it go? Just a second. Yeah. So I created like a veneer out of, this is made out of Oitra only, by the way. It's a Bargello technique, and it's veneers are just sheets of a pattern, and I can just cut out pieces out of it and make things out of it. So it's just a Bargello technique that I have used. It gives like a fabric-like look to the sheet. So that is one creation I made. You can make canes. Now, what is a cane? Cane is like a long roll of clay which has a pattern running through it. So when you slice in the cane, you will get consistent, similar patterns through it. I made a butterfly out of a cane that I made for butterflies. So this is made out of a cane. So you seeing these patterns, this has been sliced out of a log of clay, which had a consistent pattern running through it. So that's how you work with canes. Sculpting, I showed you how I sculpted a SpongeBob SquarePants out of Oitra. So sculpting, you can make whatever. You can make figurines. You can make small models. You can make dioramas. You can make so many things just out of sculpting. Extruders is something Indians will be very aware of this thing actually. Abroad people call it an extruder. यहाँ पे in India we also use something very similar for making chakna and farsan. So it's a very similar thing. You can probably use one of those machines also. I just hope you clean it properly before you start using it for edible products after using it for clay. But it's very similar to that. It's just you put clay inside it. Okay, you put a disc of a pattern over here, and then you gumao it, and long strings of that pattern of clay will come out. It's very similar to the farsan creating machines that we have in market these days. So that's an extruder. Got a fancy name for that. And then you have blends. So you can blend colors. You can make blends out of it and create like sunset like tones and gradients and all of that out of clay. There's no end to it. I can just go on and on with clay, and there'll be no end to it. Next comes the variants. Polymer clay comes in a lot of varieties. You have bold colors. Now, Oitra has a lot of bold colors. It has a lot of options also. They come in this is 100 gram. No, sorry, this 250 grams, a 250-gram pack. I have this one open one, which is a 500-gram pack of clay. You get the smaller packets also. This is the 100-gram one. So you have a lot of variety in bold colors. Bold colors, they have, you can just check out the Oitra website. They have like a lot of variety of colors. And honestly, you can just mix your own colors also. In fact, if you look at these are all bold colors, and look at the variety of colors that they have. It's 24 colors in one box. So yeah. And then comes the metallics. Metallics is you actually have golden colored clay, you have silver colored clay. They also have bronze, if I'm not wrong. These are the two clays, and these are the two baked samples I made out of these two clays. And they're pretty flexible also, see. They don't break. Pretty good with the flexibility. Oops. So yeah. So that is the gold clay and the silver clay. They also have pearlescent clays, and when we come to neons, I think I kept it inside, but they have neon colors as well. I have a pink, neon pink. They have translucent clay. Now I wanted to show you translucent clay. This is that I've created two samples of it. This is one thickness and this is the other thickness. One is slightly thicker. I'll show you why this is called translucent. Wait. Yeah. Can you see how the light is moving through it? The light is just going through the clay. It's that transparent, see-through, almost. So you can, I don't know if you can see on this, you can actually read Oitra through the clay. I don't know if it will be visible on your camera, but it's see-through. So that is translucent clay. They have glow in the dark clay, which is fabulous. That's one of my favorite clays to play with. I made something also. This is the glow in the dark. It looks like translucent, but once you switch off the lights, you'll know it's not translucent. Sometimes you might end up using it like translucent and suddenly your stuff is glowing in the dark. That has happened, by the way. Um, just a second. Where is my glow in the dark? Somebody has unmuted themselves. Can you please mute? There's a lot of disturbance on the call. Yeah, thank you. Damn, I lost my. Where is my glow in the dark? Never mind. So I'll show that to you later. I created some earrings out of glow in the dark and okay, never mind. So I think this is the glow in the dark, or this is the glow in the dark. Yeah, I think I should just switch off the light and show it to you. Is that visible? I don't know. Never mind. So yeah, it glows in the dark. It needs to be charged. I had my earrings charged somewhere. I don't know. I can't find them on the work table right now. But yeah, you can make glow in the dark things. I've created like patterns out of glow in the dark. There's another variety of clay that is very versatile. It's called liquid clay. The clay is actually in liquid form. What it does is you can use it for various purposes. It's very handy. And when you're fixing two pieces together, it's advisable that you use liquid clay. And please don't ever use glues or super glues with clay, especially before baking, because when you bake glues, it will release toxic fumes, and you don't want that. So please don't use, glues to glue your clay elements. Always use liquid clay to fuse them. Liquid clay or bacon bond, or there's so many varieties of liquid clays you get for each, but I usually am done with just one bottle of liquid clay, and you can use it to fuse things. You can use it to soften clay if your clay is too hard, if the clay has been lying for too long and it's very difficult to condition. You just add a few drops of it, like 1 or 2 drops of it, and you can condition your clay back to softness. So that is another use of liquid clay. You can create transparent looking layers using liquid clay. Just put a transparent layer, like one thin layer of liquid clay, bake it, and it comes out looking like glass. So liquid clay is good that way also. And sculpting clays are clays that are more harder in texture. They are usually used by sculptors, high-end sculptors, and figurine makers. So those clays will be slightly different, and the way you bake them will also be different. Of course, you will bake them in phases. Like I said, you can keep baking clay again and again. Once you have baked it, I can put this back in the oven again, and it will not burn if the temperature is correct. So you can bake things in phases. You don't have to bake everything together. You can bake it in phases. Make one layer of it, then you do more, bake it, then you do more work on it, and then you bake it again. Then you add more work to it. You can do all of that with clay. Okay, so I think it's time for a quick demo. I was thinking of showing you how to make a very simple pair of stud earrings. This is going to be very simple. This is going to be a very simple pair of earrings, but I wanted to show you how to create studs. Many times people use glues, like I just mentioned. Please don't use glues to fix components to your earrings. It will not stay. Uh, no matter what brand of super glue you use, you can use Loctite, you can use whatever you want. Over time, it will wear off, it will break off. So don't use super glues. I'll teach you how to use just clay and nothing else to make a pair of earrings that will not break over time. The findings will not come out. So I'll just switch to my work desk. Like, you just okay. Okay. So now I hope you're able to see my screen. Is it visible? Okay, I'll stop sharing. Can you see my work desk? Yeah, it's visible now. Okay. I hope it's visible. Yeah. Okay. So now I'll make a pair of very simple earrings. Here's a piece of conditioned clay. I put it, see, you can see how it's leached on the paper. So I've put a piece of clay. I'll teach you how to condition it also. If you can see, there are slight air bubbles coming, right? These air bubbles need to be escaped. So you just need to make a slight, I use a craft knife. Just make a slit, release the air out of it. Ensure you keep doing this every time you roll out your clay so that no air bubbles are getting stuck in between. And oh, this is the acrylic sheet that I'm using that Oitra has. I'm not going to use a pasta machine right now because I think for beginners, you don't really need a pasta machine. When you're just starting out with a medium, I would not suggest you to go invest in heavy equipments and tools unless you're sure that you really love this medium. So there's no point investing in huge equipments and machinery unless you're sure that this is the medium that you really want to work with. So did you see when I folded, more air bubbles are coming out? All these need to be released. If you don't release these, later on when you bake them, they will come and ruin your mood for the entire day. It has happened to me, that's why I'm letting you know. You don't want an uneven surface. When you roll it out, see, more bubbles are coming. You need to let it escape. Make sure all the air comes out of it. Actually, I have a glass underneath, which is why it's slipping. It's not supposed to slip otherwise. So yeah, basically that's how you condition your clay. Now I'll not waste my time conditioning clay in front of you. That's how you condition your clay. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use their depth guides and show you how to use a depth guide. What do you use a depth guide for? So what we're going to do is, there are two parts of an earring, right? I'll show you. This is one pair of stud earrings that I made. Okay. There are two parts of it. The front is your stud and the back is again your stud. If you see, there is no glue used in this. It is completely embedded inside clay. There is no way this this post is going to come out of your earring. It's pretty secure. So what we do is we create the front first. Okay, we create the front, we bake that, and then after that we put the back side on it. I'm going to use my thicker, this is the thicker depth guide that I'm using. This is the 3mm one because I want the front to be really big and nice. So I'm going to use the 3mm one. So what this is helping me do, I've placed the clay in between the two depth guides. It's helping me bring an even thickness on the clay. Now, if you see, the clay is evenly rolled out. It's as good as having a pasta machine, right? Can you see? I hope it's visible. Yeah. So it's an even layer that has been created that is equal to the thickness of your depth guide. That's why you use a depth guide. Now that I have my, you can see bubbles here. I'm not going to use this for baking, but just for an example, I'm showing this to you. This is a sign that you should look out for. You should not have bubbles on your sheet. Now I'm going to show you how to create a domed effect when you make a cut. I'm going to use a cutter. You use cutters. Oitra will be coming out with cutters as well, so keep an eye out for those. But I'll be using this cutter, a simple oval shaped cutter, to make this stud. I'll just place a thin plastic sheet on top of my clay, and I will press it with my hands. Now what it will do is, I'll show you what it will do. When you do that, you get a domed effect, and you get two M&M looking earring posts. Now, when I remove this, you see how it's, what I can do is I can use a silicone brush and even out the edges. I even out the edges, remove the edges. So the idea is to clean out your piece as much as possible before baking it, because after baking you will have to otherwise spend time on sanding it or buffing it and all of that. It's better that you make as many corrections before you put it for bake. So clean out all your edges properly, ensure that nothing is uneven on any side. These are going to look like two cute gemstones. So you can just use your hand, smooth out a bit. Ensure you don't leave any fingerprints when you do this. And you can bake this. Once you've baked it, then you can go on to the next part. So half your earrings are done once you bake this. Once you bake this, I created two pieces. These are not the domed ones. These I just cut out flat. So I'm going to use this as a front. And now I'm going to use my depth guide again. So since the back need not be as thick, it just needs to be put in to embed your posts. These are the posts that I'm going to use, right? So if you see, it's a very thin base. I don't need a very thick polymer clay layer to embed it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the depth guide again, but this time I'm going to use a thinner depth guide. This is the 2 mm one, right? This is the 2 mm depth guide. I'm going to roll it out thinner. And now I have a thinner layer of polymer clay. So that is a thinner layer. Actually, I don't mind rolling out slightly more thinner than this, because the back pose does not require a very thick backing. Are you seeing these bubbles? Yeah, these are not supposed to happen. So whenever you condition your clay, ensure all these bubbles are out of your clay. Otherwise, you'll have a very uneven back. Now, I'm going to just cut 2 ovals of the same cutter. Ensure that this cutter is the same cutter that you cut the front with. Otherwise, you'll have an uneven back. Same size cutters. Oh, this is my favorite part, just peeling the polymer clay out of it. Now I have 2 backings of clay. What I'm going to do is I'm thinking of putting it slightly not in the center, slightly off. I hope it's visible properly. Yeah, it's not in the center. So it's slightly off so that it drops a little, because it's an oval, it's not a circle. So ideally, I would fuse it with liquid clay. I put a bit of liquid clay, very little, it's not a lot, very little clay, just enough to bond it with the baked clay. And then just marry these two. What you need to do is just smoothen out the edges like this. Ensure there are no air bubbles. And you can texture it to add a little. So I use this texture tool just to give it a bit of texturing. Oh, I'm not going out of frame. Yeah. Just texture it a little. You can use anything to texture it. You can use a texture stamp. You can use anything that has a pattern that is lying around your house. And just texture it a bit. So it gives it it hides your flaws basically. If you texture the back of your stud, it hides the flaws and thumbprints and any other flaws, or if it bubbles, for example, it can just hide those flaws. So yeah, so you just texture this and see you have a stud. You just bake this now like this. You leave this on the slab like this on a sheet of paper and just bake these. And I made a pair of earrings like in a similar fashion. See. Tiny M&Ms. Pretty secure. These will never come out. It's buried well under a layer of clay. This will never break. Very long lasting. It will not break. This will last me years. So that's one technique I wanted to show you. I have made many studs in a similar fashion. You can use texture stamps to create these designs on top. You can create similar style of embedding for your dangler earrings. See, there are 2 layers of clay. This has been buried under a dark blue. This will not break. And also I wanted to tell you that there is never any scrap clay. Clay never gets wasted. You can never waste clay. You can always mix up and make things out of clay. This is one that I made out of scrap clay. Clay that was just lying around, and I just made a pair of earrings for myself. That's it. Just mix up, create a marbling texture, and it's a piece of art in its own. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of creations are made out of Oitra. If you look, these are the Japanese style earrings. Again, these were also embedded studs. These were studs actually. I created a texture on the back with some Japanese beads. So yeah, that's how you embed studs. Studs should never be, the post should never be glued onto it. And I think, yeah, so let me just come back to myself on the screen. Can I remove the spotlight? Yeah. No, let me show. Yeah, I'll just remove the spotlight. Oh. Okay. Just a second. I'll just come back to my PPT mode. Is my yeah.
Anisha, just switch to a gallery view. Therein you can.
Yeah. Is my PPT? I'm just gonna share my PPT. Yeah. Okay. So that was about clay. I will open the platform for any questions now people have. Vasudha, you want to open the session for Q&A? Can I?
Yeah, you can proceed. It's just I have been getting few queries about this bubbles and cracking. So I just want all the customers over here to just feel free to ask the question and answers over here. Any questions?
Yeah. Please feel free to ask. I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, this is Sheetal here.
Hi, Sheetal. Tell me.
Yeah, for Oitra actually, is it manufactured in India or?
Vasudha?
Yeah, I'll answer.
Do you want to answer this?
Yes. So sorry. Your name, please.
Sheetal.
Yeah, Sheetal. So this clay is basically imported. It's imported. The white clay is imported from Thailand, and the rest of the colored clay is imported from China and Taiwan. So this is not manufactured in India, but the tools and the apart from the clay, the tools and all which we are getting, those will be made in India products.
I would actually want to add here also, Vasudha, thanks to Oitra, the clay shortage has not really affected me. If people around the world are really crying about the clay shortage, there's so much clay shortage, clay nahi mil raha hai. Especially in the US, people are not getting clay.
Right.
Thanks to Oitra, I think I've already have like a year's supply of clay at home.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, yeah. So I remember her addressing one of my emergencies also when I was running out of clay, and Oitra had clay available. So yeah, thanks to Thailand, China, and all the other countries that are giving us clay,
Yes.
we have clay now, polymer clay.
Hey, may I ask something, please? Myself, Purvi.
Hi Purvi, tell me.
Yeah. Actually, what I have at home is an OTG and an Samsung convention oven.
Okay.
So, which
Okay.
of them is most appropriate for clay baking?
You can use both convection oven also and an OTG also. You can use both of them. As long as it's not a
Okay.
microwave, you can definitely use it. But use it at a convection. If it's an OTG, use it on the bake
Yes.
mode only. Okay. Use it on the
Okay.
bake mode and use it at the temperature that is given to you. That's it. And
Okay.
don't keep
Thank
it
you
too
so much.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't keep it too close to the rod,
Heaters.
the heating rod.
Yeah.
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 That's it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No issues.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. This is Smita Pradhan.
Hi, Smita.
Can you
Hi.
hear me? Yeah.
Yes, I can.
So, can you suggest me this liquid clay which you told? Can you suggest me any brand, like particularly like?
There are many brands out there, Smita. I use Fimo. It's just a one liquid that works for everything that I need. So I use the Fimo liquid clay. You can get it online. That it's there on Amazon. You get it in craft stores also. So you can
Okay.
buy this liquid clay there. Yeah.
Okay. And one more thing, like if I don't have liquid clay to like bond it, can I use like after baking, can I use like super glue or will it
Yeah, so
react?
here's the thing. No, it won't react. Super glues don't
Okay.
react with polymer clay. That won't happen. Don't
Okay.
worry about that after baking. The only thing is it won't last as long. It will fall off eventually. So it
Okay.
will
And
break off. That's the only issue.
so what if I use resin or something to glue it?
Resin works. Yes, resin works.
Okay.
Absolutely. You can definitely use resin, art resin, UV resin, epoxy resin, any resin you can use on top of. So you instead, like right now, I just showed you how to cover it with clay. You can just cover it with a layer of resin, and that should work just fine. Yes.
And the clay, this Oitra clay, we can like rebake it, right? Because mine, I had made a hoop, but it was a bit rubbery. Maybe I did not keep it for longer time. So I
Okay.
can rebake it, right? Like,
Yes. Absolutely. You can rebake it. Rebake it at the correct temperature. It won't burn. You can rebake it as many times as you want.
okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Anisha. Thank you.
No issues.
Yeah,
Hello.
one more query I have is like I have Premu already. So can I
I'm
mix it
sorry, I didn't
and
get your name. I didn't get your
yeah,
name.
Sheetal again. Yeah, Sheetal
Oh,
again.
Sheetal. Hi. Yeah. Tell me.
I'll ask 2-3 questions. Like I have
Please.
already other brand of clay. So can I
Uh-huh.
use both of them together like Premo and this Oitra?
You can use two brands of clay together. Just ensure that baking temperatures. So if suppose one clay has a certain baking temperature and Oitra has 130 degrees, so take an average of both the temperatures and bake it at that, and increase the duration of baking that clay. You can definitely combine both of them.
Okay. And for those clays, actually, they claim that it is non-toxic. What about this Oitra? I never used actually.
I've used a lot of Oitra. I've been using Oitra for almost half a year now. It's not killed me yet.
Yeah, like
It's fine. It's
anything, if
completely fine. I
anything,
use
it's
it in my I use it in my oven at home, and I cook my food in that oven. So yeah, I'm alive.
smell and anything, right?
Would
For
like to
this clay.
add in here. I would like to add in here. So this clay we have already tested, and it's non-toxic. It's safe for kids also. Just ingestion, eating and all. If we can avoid, like it's very safe. Kids can use it with bare hands.
Yes.
Perfectly safe. No issues with that.
Yes. Yeah, as long as you're not using it for eating food in, like any brand of clay for that matter, you cannot use it for ingesting or having it with food grade. So you can make spoon ends with it, but ensure that the spoon end is like the clay part is not touching your food or your liquid. Obviously, you cannot make plates to eat food in it. Like you can make plates, decorative plates that you put on your table and all, but you cannot make plates to eat in made out of polymer clay, because of course that will not be, because it's a porous material at the end of the day, and it will soak in the oils and the masalas or whatever you're putting on that plate. So ideally it's advised you don't use it for eating purposes, whatever you create or ingesting. But otherwise, for baking purposes, using it in a regular oven, it has not given me any issues. I still continue cooking in that same oven, and it's completely safe. Yeah.
Hello,
Hello.
Nidhi here.
Yeah. Answers, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Hello,
thanks. Great answer.
I'm not getting your name.
Nidhi.
Nidhi. Hi, Nidhi. Hi. Tell me.
Hello. Actually, I'm just a beginner, like in polymer clay. So should I
Okay.
start with air dry clay, or should I directly come to Oitra? Like, is Oitra good for beginners? Like, I'm completely a beginner and I have not used clay.
Uh, See, air dry and polymer clay are two very different clays, Nidhi. So, if you want to practice sculpting, for example, you can probably try air dry, but I don't see why you can't try it on regular polymer clay also, because see, it's clay at the end of the day. कुछ बिगड़ भी गया तो I can always mush it up and just start from scratch again, right? It doesn't really, I don't lose anything, and the same thing will happen with air dry as well. But the point with air dry is, if you keep it for too long, it will dry out. With polymer clay, it will not dry out.
There's
So
a
you can
complete
keep,
beginner. Can I start with Oitra?
yeah, absolutely. Why not? I was a beginner when I started. So yeah, I started as a beginner with just polymer clay, and Oitra is absolutely fine for that.
Okay.
In fact, they have this trial pack that comes. You don't have to invest in the bigger packs. These small packs that they have, this much is enough for a beginner, I think. I mean, you have a variety of 24 colors in this. This is actually a beginner pack. And I'll show you what they have, this very cute booklet that comes. This booklet has, I was going through it, it's very cute. It has different things you can make with it, with the difficulty level, and what all materials you need to use with it. So this thing comes with a list of, I think it has easily some 15 to 20 things you can make out of Oitra clay, with instructions of how you can make it, and the materials and the colors that you need to use it, with the difficulty levels. I think it's definitely meant for a beginner then. Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Hello.
Hi. Who's this?
Hi, this is Khushi here.
Hi, Khushi. Hi. Tell me.
I just wanted to ask, like, I just saw this hack on YouTube where, you just get like white color polymer clay and you can mix it with like pastel chalks and all, the pastel color that comes. So
Right.
won't there be any reaction with that if I do so?
No, it won't react. Chalk pastels are completely safe and fine to use with polymer clay, and in fact, a very common thing to use with polymer clay. Especially miniature artists who create miniatures use chalk pastels quite a lot to give the very nice shading that you get on miniatures, like the burnt feeling on bread and all of that comes out of chalk pastels. You can also mix it into the clay.
I'm not asking that. I'm asking like if I take a white clay, okay, and I want to make it like
add
in
color.
pink color. Yeah, I want to make it a pink color, plus pink. So we can use it for that also.
Absolutely. I feel you will end up using a lot of chalk pastels to color the clay then. You can definitely do it. There's no point. There's no issue in that. In fact, it will give you the pastel look also. It's just that you'll have to use a lot of chalk pastels to give it that color. Instead, I would recommend you go with alcohol ink or something like that, which uses just a few drops, and you can color the entire clay easily.
Okay. Okay.
But
Thank you.
chalk pastels work fine. You can definitely use it. Yeah,
Thanks.
no issues. Anyone else?
Yeah, what is difference between
Yes.
sanding and buffing?
Sorry, between sanding and buffing.
Yeah.
So sanding is, I'll tell you what sanding and buffing is. See, sandpaper is used for sanding. So when you sand, what it does is it scrapes off layers of the polymer clay surface, okay, with the different grains. What buffing does is you use a cloth or something like a polishing cloth. With that cloth, when you buff it, polishes it. So it's usually done using a felt or a cloth base, and sanding is done using sandpaper. So usually sanding and buffing happens together most of the time, so that you get a shine out of it. Buffing helps you get that shine on top of the polymer clay, while sanding helps smoothen out the surface. So after smoothing out the surface, you buff it, it'll give you that shine that you get when you put a varnish on polymer clay.
Okay. So, do we need to put varnish after buffing?
I don't feel the need that you need to put varnish on it. Because it gives you the shine, and I personally, it's a personal opinion, to be honest. Many people prefer using varnish on their creations. Many earring makers I have seen use a lot of varnish on their creations. In fact, even I use varnish. I'll show you one a sample of the difference between varnish and. Can you see my screen? Wait, just a second. Can you see my screen? No,
No.
you can't see my screen. Wait, just a second. I'll show you the difference between the varnish and wait. Wait, just a second. I don't know why my screen is not visible.
Just convert it to speaker view.
Yeah, I was doing that.
Okay. Meanwhile, one question for Ultra is like, do they have liquid clays or something like bake and bond also?
Right. So liquid clay, we are like into sourcing those liquid clay. So we'll be getting those by end of next month. So right now we don't have that option at our website. So by next month you'll get those also.
Lovely, Vasudha. Keep me posted, please.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
You can still not see me. Yeah, can you see me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, you were asking me about the difference between varnish and non-varnish. So if you see the ladybug on this, the ladybug has varnish on it, but the leaf does not have any varnish on it.
But the leaf
You
here
see the
itself has the shine. So
exactly.
can you just explain how it?
So it depends on. So ideally, I feel there is no need for varnish if you've done sanding and buffing. It gives a very natural shine to the thing. But if you and varnishes are also available in a lot of varieties. The one that I use is a Sculpey varnish. This is a satin one. I don't use the high shine matte gloss and all of that. I use a satin one. It gives a very subtle shine. So you have different varieties. If you want a very shiny look, then you should go for something like a varnish, which really reflects. I feel that on metallics, varnish works very well, but on regular colors, it's not really required. You can just sand and buff it and give it the look that it needs. Uh, Maybe for metallics and opals and those high effect polymer clays, you can probably use a varnish. It'll give a very nice effect because the mica powders will shine through it. But regular colors don't really need a varnish.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, Larina here.
Hi,
Larina.
Lavina. Tell me.
Yeah,
Larina. Hi.
I just wanted to ask, like, besides that chalk, like option that you told us, other than that, what other materials, like, what other kinds of paints can we use for coloring our creations?
So, are you trying to color the clay, or are you trying to color the
No, like, yeah,
final?
yeah,
After
actually, like,
baking, you want to paint it?
yeah, after baking, like, just to give like any like highlight or any dimensions or something like that.
Okay, you can always use acrylics. You have so many varieties. So I don't know if you're aware of Posca paint markers. You can use those. Paint markers are very good for acrylic paint markers. You can use to give
Okay.
highlights. You can use acrylic paints to paint over baked products. Um, what else can you use? You can mostly it's these two options, acrylic based. Try not to use any reactive solvents or anything on your polymer clay. It can damage it. But acrylics work just fine. Acrylic paints and Posca markers work just fine on baked polymer creations.
Okay, thank you. And then those that the chalk things that you were saying. So like, do those come like in the form of powders, or do we need to like grind the chalks or something?
See, it's not very difficult. I'll show you how you can create. Wait, I have chalk pastels here. So this is the one that I use, soft pastels. Okay,
Yeah.
these are soft pastels, regular pastels, and they don't take. In fact, just a very little is required. Just one, just one chalk pastel, and I just use my craft knife, and I just scrape it, like that. I just scrape it and a lot comes out. It's just enough to use it over unbaked creations. Of course, chalk pastels will not work that well on baked polymer creations. You need to use it before baking it so that it sticks to the sticky nature of the clay, and then you bake it and it absorbs it very easily. But you might get chalk powders also, but you don't need to use. You can just use this. It's just scrape it enough, and you have enough. It's just like a tiny bit. A pinch goes a long way. I end up wasting even a pinch when I scrape it out of the soft pieces.
Okay, thank you. And then like we use the chalk like an unbaked clay, right? On the surface of unbaked
Yes,
clay.
yes,
Yeah. So
yes.
after you bake them, the color stays, or do we need to like seal it with varnish or something?
See, chalk pastels don't usually. I've not covered chalk pastels with varnish till now, but you can, just to be safe, because see, it's a very thin layer at the end of the day. It sticks to the polymer clay. It will not come off that easily. But with regular wear and tear, if you're making earrings and you're giving highlights with chalk pastels, is a thin layer. It might scuff or buff. So it's better to just give it a light varnish on top, just to protect it, but it stays. It doesn't go as easily as acrylic paints. If you put
Okay.
acrylic paint, then you definitely have to give it a varnish or a seal on top. But if you're using chalk pastels, it will stay for a while. Just to be safe, you can add a bit of sealer on top.
Thank you so much.
No issues.
Hello, Anisha.
Hi, who's this?
Disha here.
Sorry?
Disha, Disha.
Yeah, hi Disha, tell me.
Yeah, hi. So actually, we have ordered a skin color clay from Oitra, and we have made quite a few earrings, and we tried baking it in the microwave, like on the convection mode, on a 130-degree and for 30 minutes.
Okay.
So after they were cooled down, even if I try to bend it just a little, they are falling apart in two parts. So what can go wrong?
It's on a convection
Like
mode.
what
You've
can
used
be
it
the
for
issue?
30 minutes. So I'll suggest
Yeah.
increase the duration of baking then. Bake it for at least 50 to 60 minutes. Because see, what happens in an oven does not happen in a microwave. In an oven, you need to preheat the oven, right? And the oven comes up to a certain temperature. So when you put your creations, it's already started baking at that temperature. And then you bake it for 60 minutes. So I'll say that just preheat your oven for at least, if not a microwave, if not a oven, then in a microwave, bake it for at least 60 minutes, because it needs that kind of time to bake and cure. If you don't give it enough time for the particles to meet and react with each other and cure itself, then it will definitely fall apart. You're not giving the clay enough time to bake. That's what the issue is. In an oven, it's the other way around. In the oven, you can preheat and keep it for as long as possible. In a microwave, it's completely timed. So increase the duration and try that. It should work.
So can I rebake them now?
Yeah, absolutely. You can. Polymer clay can be rebaked.
Okay, and yeah, and okay, if I'm creating some earrings now, and can I keep them for like a day or two and then bake them after 2 days? Is it fine?
Yes, you can. So here's the thing about keeping pieces and baking them later. Like I said, when you keep clay for too long, now all the recent batches of Oitra are coming preconditioned, right? But even those preconditioned blocks, if they are kept for months and months and months, you will have to condition it eventually, because the plasticizers will settle. So if you have created something, you have created earrings and you have kept it for a while, right? The plasticizers will start settling in. So when you bake it, there's a high chance that it might become brittle or break, because the plasticizers have been unevenly distributed in your creation. So ideally, 1 or 2 days does not matter. I wouldn't consider keeping it for longer than 1 week. I would suggest just bake it and then do whatever you want after that on top of it. But don't keep clay, clay creations without baking for more than a week.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, one question for Ultra. How much, does it need leaching for all the clays, or we can use it directly? And also, if we want to use it for canes, is it too soft, or we need to leach it for canes, as per your experience, basically?
So I'll tell you, different colors have different temperaments, and that is there for any brand. Some brands, the reds are very, very soft, so they will definitely require leaching. In fact, even the Primos have certain colors that require leaching sometimes, because I find it very difficult to work with them. So in Oitra also, there are certain colors that might require leaching. It depends on what you want to create. There are more like these, their translucent was fabulous. I didn't have to leach it at all. It was the perfect consistency. It didn't require any leaching. In fact, getting such a thin layer, where did that go? Yeah, this is such a thin layer of translucent, right? I didn't have to leach it at all. Without leaching, I got such a thin layer and it was just perfect. So it depends on the color. Even the metallics, no leaching required at all. Some colors might require leaching, but not long. Like I said, 3 to 5 hours, not more than that.
Okay, thank you.
No issues.
Hi, this is Umna.
Sorry?
Hello. Umna.
Umna. Hi, Umna.
Yeah, I just have 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
How we can have a finger impression on our post or on our earring? How we can't have that?
How to avoid fingerprints?
Yeah.
That's a good question. What I do is, so always remember how polymer clay works. Polymer clay sticks to non-porous things. It's as simple as that. So your hand will obviously always leave imprints, but there are 2 ways of doing it. Either you use corn flour or talcum powder. Talcum powder, say you can just dip your finger in the talcum powder and just smooth it over the clay. Okay, that way it will remove all the imperfections from the surface. Second way of doing it is, I have invested in something called finger cots. These are finger gloves. They look like something very questionable, sorry. But this is what I use. Okay, I use this when I'm working, and it gives me very smooth working surfaces. So I can just smooth out everything with just this. And it doesn't leave any fingerprints. Or you can use talcum powder or corn flour.
Okay, thank you. And what kind of post material do you use? Because of baking, they sometimes turn into brown.
Post material. You're talking about these back posts?
Yes, yes. Yes, yes.
See, it might. So I would suggest go for stainless steel. Always use stainless steel back posts in earring findings. Those will not catch rust. Those will not become brown, and they will stay like they are for very long.
Okay, thank you.
Stainless steel, surgical steel, all these are very good for earring findings.
Thank you.
No issues.
Hello.
Hello, who's this?
This is Larina again.
Hi, Larina, tell me.
Yeah, that fingerprinting, I actually found on YouTube, like somebody, they used the damp cotton to clean the fingerprint, and I also used that. So is like that a wrong method or something?
No, that's not wrong. That's not wrong at all. You can use earbuds. So I use that also. What you can do is you can get alcohol. I use earbuds dipped in 99% alcohol, rubbing alcohol that you call. And you can use that also to clean out imperfections. It's not just thumbprints, it can also clean out if hair is stuck in your clay, or cat hair or whatever gets stuck in your clay. You use rubbing alcohol, in this dipped in rubbing alcohol, and just use to clean it. So that also can help. Yeah. Anyone else? Any more questions?